Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking the mystical practice of Kundalini breathwork and translating it into hard, measurable biological processes. If you're a biology student or just totally fascinated by the extreme limits of human physiology, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to completely bypass the esoteric language and break down exactly what's happening to your cells, your nervous system, and your brain chemistry when you tackle these intense respiratory protocols.
Okay, here's the roadmap for today. Sections 1, the biology of Kundalini. 2, extreme physiology and risks. 3, diaphragmatic pumping mechanics. 4, breath retention and brain flow. 5, neurology of inner vision. And 6, a measurable awakening.
Section 1, the biology of Kundalini. It's honestly fascinating how perfectly we can translate ancient, esoteric terms straight into standard anatomy and physiology. Mystically, Kundalini is described as a coiled serpent of energy at the base of the spine, rising up a central channel to the crown of the head. But biologically, strip away the metaphor and we're looking at a massive, intentional synchronization of your autonomic, hormonal, and neural rhythms. That central channel aligns beautifully with the central nervous system and the vagus nerve pathway.
So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that this awakening isn't magic at all. It's a measurable physiological event that alters consciousness. You're systematically forcing bodily systems, which usually just hum along asynchronously in the background, to fire in a highly orchestrated rhythm. By combining specific posture, intense focus, and really aggressive respiration, you're essentially hacking your own biological hardware to trigger a heightened state of awareness.
Section 2, extreme physiology and risks. We're definitely not talking about some light, relaxing mindfulness breathing here. This is a heavy, systemic manipulation of your body's physical limits. The medical risks are very real. Things like cardiovascular strain and severe contraindications for anyone with an epilepsy or seizure history, glaucoma, or psychiatric conditions. Why? Because the dramatic shifts in blood pressure, intraocular pressure, and cerebral blood flow are intense. We're actively overriding the medulla oblongata's normal respiratory pacing, which puts a massive physical and mental strain on the entire system.
When you forcefully alter your carbon dioxide levels without proper guidance, the strain can get deeply uncomfortable. When you hyperventilate, you're rapidly blowing off carbon dioxide. That actually drops the acidity of your blood, throwing you into a state of respiratory alkalosis. This chemical shift makes the blood vessels in your brain constrict, cutting down oxygen delivery to cortical tissues. And that is exactly why people experience intense tingling, dizziness, disorientation, and sometimes even fainting.
Section 3, diaphragmatic pumping mechanics. If we treat this like a strict anatomical protocol, we can actually trace the exact chronological sequence of a session. Step 1 is the mental prime, centering the mind to dial down baseline sympathetic noise. Step 2 is the mechanical phase, which is rhythmic diaphragmatic pumping for a staggering 20 minutes. Step 3 is the pressure phase, where you hold the breath. And finally, step 4 is the release, where the central nervous system rebounds, giving you that famous somatic tingling right down the spine. Think of your diaphragm here as a literal mechanical pump, deliberately altering your blood's chemical composition for 20 straight minutes. This is called breath of fire, or Agni Prana. Biologically speaking, you're turning the diaphragm, a primary skeletal muscle of respiration, into a rapid-fire piston. You're forcing equal volumes of air in and out against nasal resistance. This violently massages the visceral organs below and rapidly accelerates gas exchange in the alveoli up top. It's a grueling muscular endurance event, for sure. Section 4, breath retention and brain flow. Once that mechanical pumping stops, the biological magic really kicks in with Kumbhaka, or breath retention. By holding the breath after a massive inhale, you trap a huge volume of oxygen in the lungs, while carbon dioxide starts to slowly creep back up. At the exact same time, you focus all your attention acutely at the ajna, the third eye space between the eyebrows. Biologically, this intense focal point actively recruits dense neural networks right there in the frontal lobe. Now, holding your breath for around 3 minutes pushes your body into an extreme state of autonomic alternating. Just think about the biology here. The chemoreceptors in your brainstem are basically screaming that carbon dioxide is building up. Your survival networks trigger a massive stress response, yet you're remaining perfectly physically still, using top-down cognitive control to completely override the physiological urge to panic. Because of this, the body frantically scrambles to regulate itself, oscillating wildly between high-alert stress and deep rest. Your sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight pathway, is firing hard due to the hypoxia and hypercapnia from the breath hold. But your mind's focus stillness, plus the vagus nerve stimulation from all that earlier diaphragmatic pumping, pulls hard on the parasympathetic, rest and digest system. This extreme, rapid switching between autonomic extremes is exactly what produces that profound, altered state of consciousness. Section 5. Neurology of Inner Vision. When you combined primed intention with this prolonged, non-ordinary physiological state, your brain starts actively stimulating symbolic inner seeing and geometric visions. People constantly report seeing bright lights, fractals, or perceiving distinct eyes during that long breath hold. Because the intention was primed to open up inner perception, the visual cortex and associative areas become hypersensitive. The brain is literally just trying to make visual sense of the chaotic autonomic signals flooding in from the body.
So, those bright lights and geometric patterns, they are the direct result of massive surges of blood to the prefrontal and temporal cortices. When the breath hold finally ends, the extreme vascular constriction from the hyperventilation phase releases. Boom, you get a massive rebound of cerebral blood flow. The temporal regions processing emotion and memory, and the prefrontal cortex governing awareness, are suddenly flooded with highly oxygenated blood. This sudden neurological perfusion is the actual biological mechanism behind these so-called visions.
Section 6. A Measurable Awakening. Let's put the whole puzzle together and map out the direct relationships between physical input and neurological output. The rapid diaphragm pumping creates those massive autonomic state shifts. The agonizing 3-minute breath hold followed by the sudden release directly causes that spike in prefrontal blood flow. And finally, the intense cognitive focus at the third eye stimulates deep brain structures, leading straight to hypothalamus activation.
This hormonal axis right here is the ultimate biological engine, turning a heavy breathing exercise into a feeling of transcendent cosmic energy. The hypothalamus acts as the bridge between your nervous system and your endocrine system. When it gets stimulated by these massive autonomic swings and blood flow changes, it tells the pituitary gland to dump a huge cascade of endorphins and hormones directly into your bloodstream. That neuroendocrine flood causes the intense heat, the euphoric high, and the tingling spine. The coiled serpent rising, it's literally your neuroendocrine system booting up.
So here's a question for you. If cosmic consciousness is simply a matter of cerebral blood flow and synchronized neural rhythms, does that make the experience any less profound? I'm going to leave you with that thought, challenging you to consider where the line between biology and consciousness truly lies. We've seen today how a mystical awakening maps directly to diaphragmatic mechanics, autonomic oscillations, and the hypothalamus-pituitary axis. But, understanding the exact cellular mechanics of how a piano works doesn't make the music it produces any less beautiful. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep studying the incredible mechanics of life, and I'll catch you next time.